Very full show. Chevrolet reveals a new car they're bringing to the track in 2020. Tony Stewart makes some laps around Circuit of the Americas in Austin. And then we've got some other manufacturer/silly season rumors to discuss. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric, and welcome to Out of the Groove. We've got a lot of small news stories to talk about today, so we're going to be bouncing around all over the place. Let's start with a couple small driver-related news. Firstly, revealed today, Jenna Fryer tweeted that Denny Hamlin reportedly has a torn labrum in his shoulder that is going to require surgery in the offseason. He expects to miss 10 weeks, but he does anticipate being ready for the season beginning Daytona 500. So in the offseason, Hamlin's going to have some surgery, should be back before the season starts, so rest easy, Hamlin fans. But I do wonder how that's going to affect his season going forward, and I also wonder where he suffered the injury. I hope it didn't have anything to do with being yanked down in that fight. I don't think it had anything to do with that incident, but the timing of this announcement is sort of interesting. Hopefully it doesn't hurt Hamlin's performance the rest of this season, but it will require surgery in the offseason. Another rumor also reported by Jenna Fryer last night is that Kurt Busch and Chip Ganassi Racing, she says, are likely going to announce an extension this weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. I'm recording this Friday morning, so maybe by Friday afternoon, by the time I'm uploading this, maybe they've announced it already, but it sounds now very likely that Kurt Busch will be with Chip Ganassi for at least one more year. If you want my guess, I think they're probably just going to sign a one-year deal. Monster Energy, because they're no longer going to be the title sponsor, at least not the only title sponsor of the Cup Series, they're now going to have more money, at least I'd say, to invest in specific race teams. So I'll bet that means they're probably going to up their partnership with Ganassi and Kurt Busch, which is probably why Kurt Busch is going to be in that car for at least one more year. But announcement has not been made yet, but expect it possibly very, very soon. Now let's talk about some of the bigger stories from this week. I talked about in my episode on Wednesday that Tony Stewart was going to be in Austin, Texas this week, the week of the Formula One US Grand Prix down there. He was going to be at Circuit of the Americas to test a NASCAR stock car. Tony Stewart, who retired from NASCAR at the end of 2016, was getting behind the wheel of a stock car for the first time since then and making some laps at the road course. Well, he did just that. Yesterday, Thursday afternoon, he made some laps. He had some Haas F1 drivers there as well. They made laps too, but Tony Stewart made some laps around Circuit of the Americas in the 14 car, tested it, see if Circuit of the Americas is possibly a viable track for stock cars, if any changes might need to be made to the configuration. I couldn't find a whole lot of information, really no video of, or very little video of the test itself. These are some fan videos I found. Credit to the person who filmed those. I talked about this a little bit in my video on Wednesday, but I think NASCAR has indicated very heavily in recent years that they want to add at least one more road course to the schedule. Circuit of the Americas is located in Austin, Texas, a major city near a lot of other major cities in the heart of Texas. It's a very new facility that can handle easily crowds over 100,000 people. They do it every year for Formula One. An IndyCar race has just been added to that track starting this year, so NASCAR is the logical next step. Now, this track was built for open wheel racing for sure, but that isn't to say NASCAR couldn't run here. It just might be a challenge at times. So interesting to see how Tony Stewart, we didn't really hear any words from Tony Stewart about how the car handled, how the track worked with the car. He did make some comments though after the test that I thought were really interesting. He was very optimistic about the future of NASCAR. After the test, he said, "I think NASCAR is going in a good direction. There's a lot of really big changes that are going to be a shock and awe situation for a lot of fans that we have not seen in our sport. So I think NASCAR is getting ready to take some big steps that are going to open people's eyes in the future." We've heard a lot about the changes for the next gen car, slightly different body style, larger wheels, maybe going to a single lug nut, but also beyond that, we've heard that starting in 2022 or 2023, when the new engine package is delivered, we're going to see likely some electrification components, maybe a hybrid engine of sorts that could add some horsepower back from what we've lost this year. And what I really find interesting is this is Tony Stewart now, a guy who's historically been very blunt, very honest about what he likes and dislikes about the sport. Here he is coming out in support of some of the changes, if not all the changes, it sounds like NASCAR is planning on making to the cars. I mean, we've already heard a few drivers recently. Corey LaJoie has said he likes what he's seen. Austin Dillon went during that test. Obviously, he was probably paid by NASCAR, but he still said he likes what he saw. And Tony Stewart here, a guy who's brutally honest all the time, saying he likes what he's seeing as well. I think this is exciting news because if the drivers like what they're going to be racing here in a couple of years, hopefully that means most of the fans will like it as well. I think that's the biggest problem this year is a lot of the drivers aren't too sure about the cars they're racing this year with this aero package, and I think that's caused a lot of the fans to be skeptical as well. if the competitors like what they're driving, I hope that means a lot of these stubborn fans will come around and like it, or at least see the merits in it as well. The next gen car I know is still more than a year away. We still have one more year of basically the same aero package we've seen this year, but I'm very excited about what I'm hearing from different drivers. You know, Corey LaJoie, Austin Dillon, younger guys, Tony Stewart, an older guy, they all like it. They all like what they're seeing so far. I think that's cool. This could be a unifying race car that brings everyone together. That would be just super awesome. All us NASCAR fans, drivers, teams, everyone can just live in harmony and be happy for once. Probably won't happen that way. Someone's going to end up angry, I guarantee it. But I am excited about what's coming next for NASCAR. You know, they've rebranded it from the Gen 7 to now the next gen car, and I've heard that that's because they're kind of trying to package this whole, 2021 and beyond as the whole next gen era. It's not just going to be a cars, I've heard, with schedule revamps. It's going to be next gen, all that type of stuff, restructured business model. It's all going to be part of the next gen era of NASCAR. It sounds like the powers that be are kind of planning on 2021 almost being like the first year of a whole new era of NASCAR. They're kind of going to treat 1948 to 2020 as kind of one era, and starting in 2021, it's almost like this is going to be the next era. That's how it seems like they're branding it, and hopefully they're making good decisions. Hopefully fans, drivers, everyone, sponsors are happy with most of these decisions, and so far so good. It sounds like the next gen car has gotten good positive reviews from everyone who's seen it. But we'll wait and see. It's very encouraging to hear Tony Stewart, a guy who's trashed just about everything NASCAR has done in the past, say something nice about the next gen car, and something nice possibly about road course racing at Circuit of the Americas. So we'll see if that ever holds any water and ever comes to be. Tony Stewart did make one of his traditional blunt comments this week at Circuit of the Americas when asked about how Formula One and NASCAR are both running major races in the state of Texas the same weekend, because in Austin there's F1 and in Fort Worth there's NASCAR this weekend, same weekend. Tony Stewart basically called out both track promoters for just being way too arrogant. He said, "Why would you not take the opportunity to book them on separate weekends and have the opportunity to have the people stay for a week and enjoy two totally different forms of major motorsports?" He also said Circuit of America and Texas Motor Speedway's promoters have their heads way up there, I don't curse on this show. It's a family show, but you can fill in the blank there. Classic Tony Stewart. I agree with him. I think it's really stupid that Formula One decided to move to the same weekend Texas Motor Speedway's had booked for years. Texas Motor Speedway has always been the first weekend of November. Don't know why Circuit of Americas and Formula One decided join them this week, but I think that's pretty stupid. I got a little ahead of myself here. I know we're talking about 2021 and beyond, the next gen car, but let's look at 2020 because Chevrolet is making a change for 2020. They're still going to be racing Camaros in the Cup Series next year, but it's going to be a new kind of Camaro. Chevrolet revealed earlier this week that they will be racing the Camaro ZL1 1LE starting in 2020. Here is the rendering that they showed. I mean, at first glance, the car doesn't look too different. I know right there, the hood, it looks where that Chevrolet logo is on the hood. I can't tell if there's an indentation there, if that's really that different, or if it's just the paint scheme they have here. Can't really tell if there's too much change there on the hood. On the side of the car doesn't look that different or anything. The grille doesn't look that front. The one notable change I would say that I noticed in this Camaro compared to the Camaro we've seen in the last 2 years is with the pointiness of the nose. If you look at a Camaro from this year, you can see this example, very pointed nose, and that's really come into play perhaps at some of the super speedways when guys lock bumpers, try to bump draft. The Chevys have always seemed to have a harder time pushing people straight because of the pointed nose. This new Camaro, it's hard to tell in this rendering, but it looks like that nose is a little bit flatter, maybe a little more gradual, not quite as pointed. So that makes me think that they made this change primarily to help their super speedway program. We saw the most recent race at Talladega, a couple of the bigger wrecks in that race were caused by Chevrolet drivers pushing guys and then getting them off center and spinning them out. And you can't really fault the driver too much for it because maybe the car and the pointed nose had something to do with it as well. Definitely appears that Chevy is at a small disadvantage when it comes to pushing guys at Talladega and Daytona. This change in this car might, make that more equal again. But yeah, beyond that small change perhaps in the nose, this car still looks good. Looks basically the same as the Camaros they're racing this year. So okay, Chevy's got a new car. Good for them. They haven't figured out the current car just yet. They still are lagging behind Ford and Toyota in the wins category, but good luck, Chevy. At least maybe your Super Speedway program will look a little bit better now. I don't know. All right, I want to shift to this. I have one other thing I want to talk about in today's episode. I read an article earlier this week from motorsport.com, and it was an interview with executives from Honda talking to them about whether they would be interested or what it would take for them to join NASCAR as a fourth manufacturer, possibly. When asked about their interest in joining NASCAR, here's what a top executive at Honda had to say recently. He said, "We always keep an eye on it. We look at it peripherally right now, but it is something that interests us. Given the opportunity, we jump at the chance to do that as soon as it makes sense for us." In this article, Honda basically talks about how they'd love to join NASCAR if the dollars and cents add up, if it makes sense to them, and they are very interested. They did specify that they're interested in what the next gen car is going to look like and how that's going to work, because the finances of it might be enough to get Honda invested in NASCAR. But the big thing they pointed out is that NASCAR is a major investment. It's a question of cost versus benefit, and honestly bandwidth, because NASCAR is a huge undertaking with 38 races and a lot of cars and engines to build each year, so it becomes a capacity issue. To do NASCAR, say you need 4 cars, I don't know, but I'd imagine it's maybe 20 engines per car, so you're looking at a minimum of 80 engines per season. That's a lot of engines you gotta crank through. Right now, Honda's very invested in IndyCar and IMSA, 2 other big American racing series, and the way it sounds in this article, the way Honda made it sound, is they kind of would have a decision to make. They could either do IndyCar and IMSA, like they are now, or they could do NASCAR. The way their current finances line up, it's not really feasible for them to do all 3. They'd have to pick from these 2 or the 1. And right now, I think they're pretty happy with what they're doing in IndyCar and IMSA. They're getting their money's worth. They're well invested. They're competitive over there. It'd be a big and risky jump to move away from that completely and go to NASCAR. But I thought that was really interesting in this article, the way that it sounds like they can't really do all 3. Maybe that's just a Honda situation because of where their finances are. But they act like they can't do all 3 at the same time. They'd have to pick and choose their battles. And right now, I think undertaking NASCAR would just be too daunting for them right now, too risky. But yeah, Honda also expressed confidence in NASCAR's current CEO, Jim France. Jim France has been very involved over there at IMSA over the years, so he has a relationship with Honda. They have a relationship with him, and they seem to be very excited about the leadership, his leadership so far with NASCAR, and they are very interested in what the next gen car is going to bring, especially on the cost side of things. So it's not hopeless that Honda could join NASCAR. Looks like they're very interested. They're definitely keeping a close eye on it, but still some changes have to be made. And I don't think we'll really get a good idea of what, if any, new manufacturers will come into the sport until the next gen car is on the track in 2021. We're not going to see any new manufacturers in 2021, but maybe a few years down the line, especially when we get that new engine package in 2022 or 2023, that's when we could really start to see newer manufacturers like a Honda possibly get interested and invest in NASCAR. But I thought that was an interesting article, hearing how another major manufacturer is still keeping their eye on NASCAR. These other companies are not ignoring NASCAR. They are interested, and for the right price, I think they would get into NASCAR, and I think that knowledge is what's driving some of these decisions by NASCAR to try to make these cars more cost effective. Obviously, they want to do it for the current teams that are in the sport right now, but they also want to make this thing more appealing to outside manufacturers who haven't yet gotten invested in the sport. So really interesting in my opinion, but yeah, a lot of information, a lot of stuff talked about in this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about all these topics. It's a lot. But anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Big thank you to my Patreon supporters: Michael Harrison, at you as the stars, Cameron James, John Koblenz, Jason Arlong, Wesley Donaldson, Isaac Dennis, and Mika Suzuki, iFaceRace.com, TheRacingInsiders.com, Matthew Koulopoulos, Pepe Lucius, Jeremy Conklin, Emilio Garcia, Joey DiMaccino, Sky Racing Forums, Bryce Schumacher, Bryce Starcher, Colton Austin, Scott McNew, Bradley Pelletier, and the rest of these incredible Patreon supporters. I couldn't do this without the support from you every single week. Lots of exciting things in the works right now for this channel, so thank you guys for your continued support. I keep getting a lot of comments about this. I've mentioned it a couple times on my Twitter and whatnot, but I'll mention it again. I will not be at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend. I'm currently not living in Texas. I'm living on the East Coast, so I will not be at Texas this year. Hopefully I'll be back there at some point next year. I'd like to go to at least one of the Texas races next year. I love Texas. It's a good facility, amazing facility actually. Treat their fans well. But I won't be there this weekend. I will hopefully be at Homestead Miami Speedway. That is the current plan. I'll be at Homestead in a couple weeks. So if you're going to Homestead, going to the championship race, probably see me there. But anyway, y'all, that's all I got for this episode. That's all the news. Probably not going to hear from me again until after Sunday's race. Should have an episode up Sunday night after the Texas race. Hope it's a good one. Going to be interesting with the way the points are right now. Got a lot of good drivers below that cut line that are good at Texas. Could be a very interesting weekend. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys then. Have a good rest of your weekend. See you real soon.